I'm ashamed that those guys would put their families and their careers in jeopardy. There's an old saying in the hood, all money ain't good money.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
Who's got it better than us?
This is the Church Pew Sports Podcast, featuring a group of pastors delivering bombastic takes on sports, life, and faith.
We're going to attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Take a knee.
Man, it's hard to break us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Lend an ear.
These are some of the best questions I've had. I have to tell you that straight up.
As the Church Pew Sports Podcast begins.
We were all supposed to be here together, man. We're destined for this. Just stay the course.
Give each other a high five!
I think they're giving high fives in the FBI offices this week. It seems to be the biggest team celebration that's taking place. Hello, friends, and welcome into another episode of Church Pew Sports. It is good to have you with us. Thanks for joining, hopefully for subscribing, whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast carrier, Spotify or Apple Podcast, wherever it is, or maybe you're watching the YouTube version. It's good to have you along. Bill Hobson here, along with Pastor Paul Miller, who's checking in from the general Chicagoland area. Is this correct?
Yes, I am in Lake Forest, Illinois, which is like definitely Bears country, and it's good to breathe this air. It's good to be back home. Some things are right with the world right now just because I'm north of Chicago.
Has there been, during your brief visit, any deep dish consumption?
Yes, the event that I'm at, unfortunately, they gave out Lou Malnati's, not Giordano's.
Oh.
So, but Lou's is okay. It's like maybe the third or fourth best pizza in Chicago, and in my opinion. So it's been good. It's been good. And I took a group of guys to Portillo's today, which was the first time that any of them had been to Portillo's for a Chicago hot dog. And that was really fun. It's just good, Bill. And I've made fun of every Packers fan that showed up at the event that we're doing here.
Nice.
And that's just, it's all is right in the world when I can do that stuff.
You are in your comfort zone back in the old stomping grounds, and
yes.
You're there during the wrap up of a bizarre week in sports. Now, one of the things that we've learned over the years, this is the 190th episode of Church Pew Sports. Yeah. One of the things we've learned statistically from the data that we get is that the least listened to topic that we can ever address on this podcast is the National Basketball Association. We just know that. We've tried it. We've done all sorts of stuff. We've had Hall of Famer George Blaha on, and hardly anybody listened to the broadcast. So I say this with a little bit of nervousness, but tonight, if any of you have been paying the least bit of attention to the headlines of the week, you know that there is a gigantic scandal rocking the National Basketball Association. The news broke the morning after opening night. Like, the league is in its they're smiling. They had great performances by Wembayama. They had great start to the season. And the next morning, well, here's a summary of what's transpired.
Rozier's accused of exiting a 2023 game with a phantom foot injury so that he and his co-conspirators, including his childhood friend, could make tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, NBA Hall of Famer and current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, Chauncey Billups, appeared in Portland federal court today. Billups is accused of coordinating with the mafia during rigged poker games where victims lost more than $7 million over 6 years. Prosecutors say they used this shuffling machine to cheat. They also allegedly used X-ray tables to secretly view cards, but that's not all, Brett. The indictment reads in part, quote, the defendants also utilized other cheating technologies, such as electronic poker chip trays that could secretly read cards placed on the poker table, and playing cards that had markers visible only to individuals wearing specially designed contact lenses or sunglasses. Former NBA player and coach Damon Jones is listed in both indictments, so that means he's accused of partaking in the illegal rigged poker games and selling insider information for NBA bets.
This is the insider trading saga for the NBA. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
How's that for a summary, Paul?
Well, Yeah, I was all ready to tell you that I think that people don't want to listen to NBA conversations because they're done with the on-court product. This is next level. It's just next level.
The kind of stuff that's happening is right out of a movie script. It's out of Ocean's 11 or it's out of Goodfellas. In fact, there have been specific crime families, the Gambinos, they all end with vowels. They've been mentioned by name in this indictment. A few years ago, the NBA had some investigations that was looking into 5 suspects. This particular indictment sweeps up 36 suspects, all connected to the National Basketball Association. And here's the wild part. When I played that soundbite, the soundbite began with the name of Rozier. Well, that's Terry Rozier. He's a player.
Right.
Who was really at the forefront of all that's taken place because he was the most obvious, or I guess you would say clumsy, about the measures he took to make sure that people could bet on him to not reach certain statistical levels. So the under, right? So in this weird world of gambling, you now, for all of the uninitiated, you now can place wagers on the outcome of a game, the difference in the final point spread and all of those things, but you can also place individual wagers on players to do or not do something, a number of rebounds or assists or points, and those are referred to as prop bets. Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, the NBA looked into suspicious behavior by Terry Rozier, and they announced him to be perfectly clean. Here's ESPN's Brian Windhorst picking up the ball from there and talking a little bit more about the culpability of the league.
The NBA at some point is going to have to explain why Terry Rozier was allowed to keep playing. And I just want to point something out.
Mm-hmm.
The sports books caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier the day it happened, the morning it happened, when all of a sudden there was hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in on Terry Rozier unders for a relatively meaningless game in March, involving the Charlotte Hornets. The sports books caught it. They told the NBA right away. And guess what? The NBA, Rozier didn't play the rest of the season, and he had faked the injury, so it wasn't because of the injury. The NBA pulled him. They pulled Jonte Porter too. They flagged Jonte Porter and pulled Jonte Porter. The NBA's measures, their protection measures, the sportsbook's protection measures triggered this. They caught it. The issue, I think, is Jonte Porter, they caught, convicted, and tossed him out of the league within weeks. Rozier didn't, and in this investigation, and I don't know if Terry Rozier is guilty. The NBA obviously didn't feel that he was. They wouldn't have let him play. But this indictment implies that there was a swath of conspirators. There was like his cousin, his cousin's friend. I mean, like all the way down to like low-level guys who won money on this bet and then immediately bet on other games and lost all the money and had to tell other people, man, I lost the money, I'll have to get it to you. Like the really low-level people who were betting hundreds of dollars on this game. In addition, people were betting tens of thousands. So my point about saying that is that there was a wide swath of people who were benefiting from this inside information on Rozier, according to the feds, and that the NBA either didn't discover that or knew about that and cleared him. They're going to have to answer for it.
Yeah, so that's Brian Windhorst on the Rich Eisen show, and we've got a lot more sound bites, but let's just take a breath for now, and I'd love to get, Paul, you've had a week where you've been busy with a lot of important things, and as you hear kind of this summation, what are your first thoughts?
Yeah, the first thing I was thinking about is the fact that I was sitting at dinner last night at this event that we're hosting here in Chicago, and I happened to be sitting next to a pastor from a church in Portland, right?
Okay.
And he overhears me having a conversation with a guy sitting on the other side of me about this podcast and about the fact that we were probably going to have some kind of conversation because the headlines are just sensational. And he's like, "Are you talking about Chauncey?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I saw the headlines. I don't know the details, whatever." And the guy immediately just shakes his head and looks at me and goes, "The guy is screwed. The guy is screwed." So like that was that guy's first reaction. My first reaction is pretty similar, which is these guys have like all the money that they would ever need. Why would you do that? Why would you? I don't understand throwing good money after bad like that. And so, I mean, there's all kinds of layers to it. Like you were saying, there's the conversation about the integrity of the game, and it's just like a hit to the credibility of the NBA and their ability to self-govern. There's also kind of this, what did you think was going to happen when all of a sudden it's like FanDuel presents the NBA or whatever it is, and ESPN Bet and all the different things that are out there now.
Yeah. Paul, let me jump in for a second. I'm picturing this conversation with that pastor in Portland. And of course, he would have some knowledge of Chauncey because he's the coach of the Trailblazers, who coached as recently as the night before the arrest was made. And in all of this, there are two separate investigations. And during the FBI press conference, they played up the dramatic side in the names of these two investigations. So the one that's involving the poker games, the illegal poker games with the X-ray tables, all the stuff that would come out of a James Bond or Ocean's 11 movie, that's called Operation Royal Flush. And they tagged it with, and all of these suspects have flushed their careers down the toilet or something like that. The other one that's connected to game fixing is called Operation Nothing But Bet. So we have Operation Royal Flush, Operation Nothing But Bet, and only one person that we've heard of so far is connected to both of them, and that's Chauncey Billups. And there's ample evidence of him hosting the poker games and then also of some very shady coaching maneuvers on the level of I hate to say it because Chauncey's my guy, Paul. The going to work Pistons were not the bad boys. This was a great team that played hard. They played clean. You didn't have to root for him, but you really couldn't hate him and Chauncey was the leader of this really, really talented group. And here's it's kind of tough for an old Pistons fan to hear these things, but here's where it could go. This is a conversation from Colin Cowherd's show today.
Chauncey played rigged poker games and knew it. To me is what? Does that land similarly to you?
If that is true, like let's just assume that the unnamed person in the sports gambling one who fits the exact description of Chauncey Billups is Chauncey Billups. I mean, that is the NBA's version of Pete Rose. You have an NBA head coach tipping off a gambler that he's going to sit players. They should bet the under. Like, I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame, Colin. Can he get thrown out of the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, yes.
Right? Like that is on the table.
Okay. I mean,
wow, when they say it's like Pete Rose, it's their Pete Rose. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my word.
So here's the FBI director. I haven't played any of his yet. Here's just kind of his recap of what's happened, and it's just
individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
Now Mafia's in?
Paul, these guys, all right, let's take Chauncey for a moment. In his career, just as a player, made over $110 million.
Yeah.
The reports that have come out to this point are that in all of this, he would have benefited to the tune of a few $100,000. For you and me, that's big money. For him?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the morality of this. Let's talk about where we are as a culture, what this does to the credibility of the NBA, which I thought was already kind of shifty to begin with, dating back to the Tim Donaghy referee scandal from years ago. Okay, first question. what is it about money that makes successful people do really strange things to put themselves at risk and to go after a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't know. Like scripture says, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil, right? Makes me wonder if it's the money or if it's the buzz that comes from it. You know, like like if I'm friends with Chauncey Billups, I'm like, dude, how bored are you that this is something you want to give your time and energy to? And how could you're coaching an NBA team. You've made all the money that you have generational wealth, yada, yada, all of that stuff. It's not the money that he's going to put in his pocket or maybe lose. So there's a thing behind the thing that he's going for, which is some type of, I don't know what other word to use, buzz, high, adrenaline fix, you know, all those kind of things that like guys like me say, that's why I want to jump out of airplanes or buy a motorcycle, you know, or whatever,
Right.
That kind of stuff. I don't know. I just don't get it. I honestly, you're putting so much at risk, for a very temporary fix.
There's a little bit of comedic irony in that for some reason this week, I think it was on Monday, the NCAA officially began allowing college athletes to wager, just on, not on their own games or teams. And I after this whole thing blew up in the NBA, you start thinking, what could possibly go wrong with all this? We are so oversaturated as a culture with gaming. My wife and I were out in Utah 2 weeks ago. We flew into Vegas to drive up to Utah, and I was doing a story for a golf resort. And of course, you can't help but fly into Vegas and not be impressed by just the scene. We came in when it was all lit up, you know, and you fly over the strip. It's wild. And then you read these stories about how Vegas as a destination is really down like 30% because you don't have to go there anymore to get your thrills or to lose your money. You can do it from your couch with your phone in your hands. And now the ads, we used to always see embarrassing ads on sports events for some sort of dysfunction medicine. And now those are largely gone, thankfully. But every other commercial is for gaming, all of them. And you mentioned it earlier. You're watching these reports on this scandal on ESPN, while at the bottom of the screen is the prompt for ESPN's betting arm and the odds on whatever they want you to bet on. It's the upside down world.
Yeah, it's an addiction thing. I don't understand it. Like I remember the first time I ever went to Vegas, Bobby and I went on a family trip with her family. We were going to this spa for a really bougie couple days. It was super fun. But I walked through one of the casinos just because I'd never been in one before. And it was like so
it's sad,
depressing. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of stood and people watched for a while. And I couldn't, it was so, I couldn't understand. I just did not understand. There was like a blankness in people's faces. So I go back up to our room and Bobby's like, where were you? And I'm like, I was down like in the slots area, just watching people. And I just shaking my head. I don't get it. I don't pretend to get it. It's an addiction, I think, just like any other addiction. I think in the case of what's going on, and like when you got these guys, these NBA guys, it's like there's some kind of high that they're getting or some kind of adrenaline fix that they're getting from that is, I know where I wish people would go to find that sense of fulfillment and whatever in life. But that's a whole nother conversation, or maybe that is the conversation that we should be having here on Church Pew Sports. Like if you try to put anything, if you try to fill the hole inside you with anything other than Jesus, or put anything on the throne in your life other than Jesus, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah. You're asking for trouble in so many different silos. So you're asking for, in this case, you're asking for financial trouble. You're asking for reputational trouble.
Yeah.
If you're in bed with the mob families, you're asking for a whole lot of, that's a new level of trouble. If they're still around, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people that these families are still in operation. If they're still around and they're the ones coming up with X-ray machines built into tables and contact lenses that can read a secret mark on a car and all those things, and you're the one who's kind of flipping the lid on all of that. Now you're talking about having somebody else start your car for a long time. These guys are not messing around. This isn't like a secret club with a handshake and a wink wink. They do things that harm people to make their points. Shaq, the inside the NBA, of course, has moved from TNT over to ESPN. I watched their first night. It was fun. It was the same show. I would much rather watch them than the games. I don't care about the games, but they're entertaining. Yeah. And their second night on the air is the night that all of this came out. I played you a 10-second clip of Shaq at the very beginning of the podcast. Let me play the full minute of his thoughts on all of this, because the big fella, once in a while, he can make some good points.
We all know the letter of the law when it comes to gambling and sports gambling, and I don't want to sit up here like I'm some perfect guy. Like every now and then when I go to Vegas, I'll play some craps and I'll play some roulette, but never gambled at anybody's house. Don't know anything about poker, so I don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the Chauncey thing. But I know Chauncey, I know Damon very well, played with Damon, so I don't want to sit up here, but I'm ashamed that those guys will put their families and their careers in jeopardy. There's an old saying in the hood, all money ain't good money. So if you're making $9 million and you're dealing in certain things, like how much more do you need? Especially if you know you get caught, you can do jail time, lose your career, put a bad image on yourself or your family or on the NBA.
All money ain't good money.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes on a T-shirt here pretty soon, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, so you deal. This is kind of the connection between sports and life and faith. Your world is dealing with those who minister to young people. What is the message that you wish a 17-year-old high school junior who has been dabbling on his phone apps with the various, and he's got $5 here and $10 here, but they do that. They get you started because they'll give you bonuses of several $100s if you'll place a $5 bet. And they're not dumb. This is just increasing the dosage, and it kind of ratchets up as you go. What would you like a younger sports fan who has dabbled a bit in this world of gambling to hear from you?
Yeah, I would say, whatever it is that you're chasing, whatever it is that you're trying to find, that's a false well. Like you're trying to find some type of fulfillment or something. It's like why guys get into porn and all the things, right? And it's like, there's only one thing that's going to fill that void and give you purpose and not be a false well, and that's a relationship with Jesus. I mean, that's I don't want to over spiritualize it, but maybe I do. I just don't. I don't know what else to say about that. I don't know. Sometimes I'll get in conversations with people and they're like, tell me your story, right? And my story is one of those that I met Jesus when I was like 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have before Jesus, I was watching Speed Racer cartoons, kind of stuff. Yeah. And my whole life has been like a slow, steady climb up and to the right with my relationship with the Lord, and also with my understanding of my purpose on this earth, this side of eternity. And purpose is only found in a relationship with Christ. I don't know how else to say it. Like I'll tell guys, you're not going to find that in your marriage. You're not going to find that in your career. You're not going to find that the temporary fixes and buzzes of things like gambling or porn or any of those other kind of things. They're false wells. Don't get caught up in trying to drink from that false well. Go to the one you know is true. And I don't know. I mean, I know that's a very spiritualized answer.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. You're a pastor. That should be, that's okay. I also, take all of this to a more practical sense. First of all, I don't think if you've listened to Church Pew Sports for any length of time, I think you're pretty familiar that with Paul and myself, we're not exactly the town elders on Footloose, right? We're not afraid to have fun and encourage you to fellowship and go and do things and smile and but when you enter into a world where you're literally putting your resources at risk, it just doesn't seem to be that terribly wise. Now, I have good friends who are followers of Christ who love to go play blackjack for hours, and they'll play poker for hours. That's not my call. You go ahead and do your thing. I would just encourage you to maybe take a little extra time and think about those things, especially in the wagering world. Can you imagine, Paul, today, let's say you're a big time gambler, all right? And you're used to putting some action. That's what, I put some action out on the World Series, on the early part of the NBA season, on this weekend's college football games, on this weekend's NFL games. And after seeing what we have seen unfold in just the past 72 hours, you're really fully confident that these competitions are on the up and up, that they're fully fair? You think that the NFL, who had the head office call the referees after they'd made a call and just wipe a touchdown off the board, that a lot of people had put a little wager on Jared Goff scoring the first touchdown that's okay? We're all right? You think the Chiefs are really just that good? They just don't commit penalties? Or strike zones or whatever it happens to be. I'm just not trying to cast aspersions on the whole world. I'm just trying to say that there's so much room in all of this for what we're seeing unfold. And here comes the NBA with its own investigation of Terry Rozier, and they pronounce him clean and ready to go, but then they sit him out. They suspend him.
Right.
Well, why would that be? He wasn't injured. He admitted to faking the injury. So why would they sit him out? If there was no danger, it's like, did you order the code red? Well, at some point, somebody's got to say, you're right, I did. Okay, so So do you, let's put on our little tinfoil hats for just a moment. Do you believe this is the extent of it in all of sports? Do you think this is it? The NBA has been caught. This scandal is erupting, but it doesn't go any further.
No, I don't think. I think we're just like the break in the dam is just starting to reveal itself, and there's going to be shocking stories. I don't think it's just the NBA. I think it's going to show itself in all sports, different ways, different levels, obviously. But it's just, that's what's such a bummer to me. Like, as a sports fan,
yes,
it's such a sports for me is such a great kind of, I think, healthy, semi-borderline unhealthy distraction. And I don't want to say escape. I want to say it's like a hobby. It's like a thing that I enjoy. But if I have to always be wondering,
right,
I don't want to watch a college football game and be like, oh my gosh, that was rigged. That was rigged. Whatever. There's the integrity of the game thing. Like, I'll take an Ohio State loss to Michigan, but that was part of why the Connor Stallions thing was so weird to me and so hard to stomach, because it called the integrity of the game into question. That was more just a did they cheat or not thing. But if it's bigger than that, and all of a sudden there's going to be guys fixing games, or guys throwing games, or guys faking injuries, or guys being told that they're not going to play for dubious reasons, that makes me sad. Just makes me sad.
You mentioned that you think we're kind of at the front edge of this tip of the iceberg, and I tend to agree with you for a number of reasons. One of them being that the wider that the net of indictments becomes, the more likely it is that somebody in that net decides to do some talking, right? To buy themselves a little more lenient sentence. There is a lot of conjecture that former NBA player Gilbert Arenas might have been the one to lend some names to this current Operation Nothing But Bet kind of a thing, because he got busted and served some time for that sort of thing. And then there's a gentleman, name I cannot remember, and I didn't write it down, so that's on me. I'm going to play a little soundbite. This is a guy who is, Paul, there's a reporter for everything. This is apparently a leading poker reporter. I don't know. And here he is talking about what, in his circles, everybody has known for years.
Look, I know the game runners. I'm telling you 100% this game is on the up and up. And I was like, well, I know a lot of the people that are involved, and I'm telling you 100% that it is not on the up and up.
Yeah.
And, we kind of went back and forth, and I agreed that, I just wasn't going to go play it. But I had some friends who went and played it both in LA and in Vegas. And it obviously, was for sure confirmed to be cheated.
And he's talking about, in the longer form of that quote, he was talking about a game that Chauncey had set up. And that's all kind of going to this whole thing. So, could we be in an era where, Pete Rose was forbidden from being in the Hall of Fame? Could we be in an era where somebody gets ejected from the Hall of Fame? I hope not, but this is rocking that league. I saw an interview right before you and I started recording with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Tonight their game, one of their games is on Prime. Nobody's watching that. But he did a pregame interview or in-game interview with some female reporter from Prime, and she asked him some tough questions. I mean, those broadcast entities just signed on for a $26 billion contract with the NBA, and all of a sudden on a silver platter, they get handed their lunch because you can't tell me this. And Adam, he hemmed and hawed and stuttered his way through an answer that did not fill anybody with confidence. So here's what's going to happen next, Paul. Every time your team or my team is on the receiving end of a questionable call, we're now going to assume the worst. Unfairly, most likely.
Yeah.
But that's the conditioning that's taking place in all this. And man, oh man.
Yeah, it's the whole, the appearance of evil kind of stuff, right? And that's exactly where we're going to go every time.
The movie Wall Street, Michael Douglas, as Gordon Gekko, uses the phrase greed is good. And we have had decades now of ample evidence that it is not. And it is largely harmful to those who are pursuing it at all costs. So while it seems like that entire 35-minute conversation has been our holy discontent, it hasn't. Here comes the real thing.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
All right, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so my holy discontent this week is with the coaching carousel in college football.
Oh man.
Because it's crazy. And it started to really bother me when I saw Matt Rule from Nebraska at a his weekly press conference start getting all these questions. And he did what I thought was a really good job of answering impossible questions to answer. He's like, I'm not going to talk about that during the season. We got more important things to worry about, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And then he gets kind of vilified in the aftermath of that. They're like, he didn't come right out and refute the rumors that he's going to be the next guy at Penn State because, he's at the top of their list because he's a former player and blah, blah, there and all that other kind of stuff. And then Lane Kiffin now is going through the same stuff because Florida just offered him like $127 million a year to come be their coach and everything else. So I saw this thing on Twitter about somebody posted an actual clause from Matt Rule's contract, right? I'm going to read this to you, and then I want to ask you if you understand at any level what this means.
Not likely.
This is in Matt Rule's contract with Nebraska under the heading of resignation and pursuit of other employment. Here's what it says. Unless the coach has been provided a notice of termination in accordance with the other provisions of this agreement, neither the coach nor anyone acting on the coach's behalf shall engage in any discussions or negotiations with any other prospective employer without notifying the athletic director in advance of those discussions or negotiations. Okay, that's not bad, but then it keeps going. The coach understands that ongoing rumors or media reports of such negotiations are damaging to the program, and the parties expressly agree that time is of the essence as to this provision, and the same shall be strictly construed. What? What does that mean?
What I get out of that is you're not allowed to talk to anybody unless we have fired you. That's what I get out of it.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, we all agree that this like sucks for the program if you have to answer questions in the media, and then what's Matt Rule supposed to say?
Right.
What is Lane Kiffin supposed to say? These guys who are in the middle of their football season, you might argue that Nebraska doesn't have anything left to play for this year, and you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. Ole Miss definitely does.
Yeah.
Like I saw today that Lane Kiffin is going to address the fact he's going to address with his team the fact that Florida offered him $13-something million a year to be their coach. What's he going to say to the team?
Right.
Hey, I'm with you. That's the price of, or that's the reward for winning, that people want us, and I'm with you all the way to the end. And like, they can't be completely forthcoming. It's like written to their contract on a certain level.
Yeah.
I just think the whole thing stinks, and I don't know. It's a lose-lose for the coaches. It's especially a lose-lose for the players, and the whole thing just stinks.
And I was reminded of this when James Franklin was fired from Penn State, that there's a key word to listen for when you hear reports about a coach's contract. The key word is called offset. Did it have an offset in it? I didn't know what that meant until I heard it explained. An offset means the coach gets a buyout. You know, he gets fired, he gets what's left on his contract or some agreed to amount of that. Or if he's just, nobody likes him and it's time for him to go, there's a buyout. The offset means that he would get the money until he gets another job.
Oh, okay.
And if he doesn't have an offset, he gets the money regardless of where he's working. So coaches that have shrewd negotiating skills would want that contract to have no offset in it so that they could double dip if they happen to get canned and go get another job. Meanwhile, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids going, hey, I came here to play with the coach. He was in my living room 6 months ago, and now he's chasing the payday. Yeah, that's that's
like
tough.
one of the Ohio State blogs that I follow today, the headline is 9 players that Ohio State is going to be able to flip from Penn State's recruiting class.
Yeah, it's
like, oh my gosh, right? It's not unlike when I've had conversations along the way in my career with a few pastors who were talking about their severance because they're leaving. And that offset thing that you're talking about is not dissimilar. Like a lot of times that'll be how it is. Because what you want is for the guy to not be in a position where he can't pay his bills.
Right.
But you don't necessarily want to overextend yourself beyond what you need to do right by him kind of thing. The salaries in the conversations I'm involved in are a little different than some of the head coaching salaries.
There's not an $89 million buyout for your pastors.
We won't go there. Yeah.
My holy discontent, this is specifically targeted at your friend and mine, Pastor Nate Murray, who is a big Celtics fan. And the Celtics are led by a player named Jaylen Brown, who has landed in my spot on the holy discontent list because of what he said in relationship to answering a question about this gambling scandal.
That whole world was introduced a couple years ago, and I don't think they took players into consideration, especially with, the energy and the behavior that goes around, gambling, and how that directly correlates with players. We don't benefit from any of the profits or anything like that, but we got to deal with, a lot of the extra negativity and scrutiny behind all the gambling stuff. And then on top of that, it creates more integrity issues, etc. So I'm not sure what the answer is going forward, but definitely something that people got to spend more time having conversations about.
We don't benefit from any of it. His salary is something like, $35 million a year. And while I do prefer that none of these leagues would get into bed with professional gambling enterprises, for him to say we don't benefit from it at all is comical. Yeah. Where does he think the salary that he's making is coming from if it's not the sponsors who line up to be a part of all this? So Jaylen Brown funneling through Pastor Nate Murray, unintentionally, of course, is my holy discontent. I blame Nate for that somehow, even though they've never met.
Those guys are so mistreated, man.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. They're soldiers. They persevere through some real difficulties. As Latrell Sprewell said several years ago, I got a family to feed. He was making, I think, $14 million a year at that time, which would be a big pay cut. We're going to roll into our That Guy, but while we're getting into it, and I'll share mine, Paul, you need to get prepared to give us a little leaderboard update in our weekly Pick'em contest so that everybody knows we're still going, we're still rolling, and we can get everybody up to speed, because now we're turning the corner to the second half of the season.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
Now, I'm tempted to kind of make myself my That Guy, because I'm at least out of the basement for a week, but I won't. I've got a different That Guy. Okay, a little setup for my That Guy. ESPN is a new NBA partner, or they're back, but they have a bigger package than they've ever had before, which means they are being very deliberate and slow moving on this NBA scandal story, because there's some self-interest involved here. And I don't know if they send out talking point memos to their on-air talent or not. Probably not to Stephen A. Smith. I think he's kind of his own thinker, and I don't think anybody puts words in his mouth, which made it even more remarkably bizarre that with an entirely serious demeanor, he says on whatever show he's on, I don't watch it, but whatever show it is he's on, he says the entire impetus to this NBA investigation and bust by the FBI is caused by and directly tied to the President of the United States, who wants revenge. I'm not sure what he wants revenge on. My That Guy is Kash Patel, not because I'm necessarily a huge Kash Patel fan, but it's for his response during a talk show interview.
I'm the FBI director. I decide which arrests to conduct and which not to conduct. That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history, and I live most of my time in Washington, D.C. We arrest people for crimes.
Single dumbest thing I've ever heard in history. I thought that was a nice, broad, sweeping statement, and he becomes my That Guy for that reason. All right, your turn.
So it's not a crime to be stupid.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. We would all be incarcerated from time to time. What's your That Guy?
So well, before I get into my That Guy, I pulled up the standings in our
let's go.
Church Pew Sports gambling operation where we're betting on games.
Remind everybody of what the prize structure looks like for the Pick'em Sports.
No money exchanges hands in our Church Pew Sports NCAA football Pick'em. There's just a group of us who are semi-regulars on this podcast who pick 5 games every week, and at the end of the season,
the winner gets nothing.
The winner gets nothing. He gets props and respect from the rest of the group, right?
Yes,
maybe an occasional snarky comment. Whoever finishes in last place is really the winner, because they have to come on the podcast and give a 5-minute review of the Buffalo Bills Hallmark Christmas movie that they have to watch in its entirety. And then they have to come on this podcast and for 5 minutes tell us about the movie and what they thought of it and everything else, with enough detail that it's proven to the rest of us that they actually did watch the whole thing.
Yeah, you can't fake it. Fake it.
So that's it. We're not betting the overs and we're not doing any of that kind of stuff. We're just picking 5 games straight up every week. This is as close as I come to gambling here. While adding maybe fantasy football, but that's a whole different conversation. The current standings, Kip Rogers is in first place. She is kind of gapping the rest of the field.
Really?
lapping the rest of us. Yeah, I don't know what her secret is. We need to get her on because we need to ask her about tortillas at Texas Tech, but maybe we can ask her about how she makes her picks every week in our little pick'em deal. She's in first place, and then the rest of us bounce all the way down to the bottom. Currently in last place is Brian Sharp. By the way, the only person in our group that's below 500 in his picks for the year. I thought that was reserved for like Pat McAfee kind of level of expertise at picking games, but Brian's trying. In fact, I threw him a bone this week by letting him pick Colorado School of the Mines in one of the games, and so we'll see if that helps him at all. Bill, you'll be interested to know that you and Kip have picked all 5 games this week the same.
Oh, really? I didn't know
you both picked Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Texas. So that's going to end one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
Either you're going to continue to rise because you're riding Kip's coattails, or she's going to come back to the rest of the field. One of 2 things.
Always pick Vandy because Jerry Kill is on that staff. And you never pick against Jerry Kill. All right, that guy is...
Yeah, that guy is the GOAT. And in the midst of all of this stuff that's making us in the midst of all this stuff that's making us disillusioned about sports, right, and everything else, part of the rollout of NBC taking back the NBA and all that other stuff was, I think it was Mike Tirico that did this little interview with Michael Jordan at the beginning of at the kickoff of the first game of the season or whatever. And Jordan is talking, or Tirico's asking him, when's the last time you shot a basketball? And they're just having that interaction. And I just thought it was classic. It was like classic Jordan. It made me think about, I'm a Chicago Bulls homer, right? But it did make me think about why I love sports, because of guys like this.
And I rented a house from the owner. Sure. He came over to do pictures. He had grandkids. And I was meet and greet and thank him for allowing me to stay in the house. And he had a basketball court. He says, I want you to shoot 1 free throw. I said, really? Now, I already paid for the house. It's not like he got to see me. So when I stepped up to shoot the free throw, it's the most nervous I've been in years.
Stop it.
In years.
Stop it. Come on.
And reason being is those kids heard the stories from the parents about what I did 30 years ago.
Right.
So their expectation is 30 years prior, and I haven't touched the basketball.
I hope you swished it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
I got the most gratifying that made my whole week is that I was able to please that kid, not knowing if I could.
That's so awesome. So what's awesome is Jordan rents like an Airbnb from some guy for the Ryder Cup. Yeah. And the guy says, hey, man, I have a basketball court in my backyard. I need you, as part of our agreement of you renting my place, I need you to come over and shoot a free throw so my grandkids can watch. I'm like, okay, that could be that guy, because that's pretty cool. Like, I would want to do something like that if Jordan ever, not that I have an Airbnb to rent to anybody, but you know what I mean? That's pretty cool. And then Jordan gets, when he's telling the story, he's like, I was super nervous because these kids were, what if I miss? And all the things those kids have heard about me would just be shattered in one moment. I just love everything about that story.
And he said he had not touched a basketball, he said, in years.
Yeah, which I don't know if I totally believe that or not, but it still makes for a great story.
Good, yeah.
And the fact that like guys connected to LeBron are going on Twitter and talking about how it's not true, and then the actual video of the thing out to show that it actually happened. I'm like, one of these guys is the GOAT and one of these guys is not. So
As
well
a pretender.
done.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. All right, let's wrap things up with our 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Yeah, we're going to take you into the New Testament here for just a brief reading in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. The subheading for this section of 1 Corinthians 10 is the believer's freedom. And the 2 verses, verses 23 and 24. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. We tie this back into the primary focus of our conversation of this entire episode. This bizarre decision-making mindset for all of these multi-millionaire athletes to go and risk it in fixing games, in gambling in fixed, rigged card game settings, to getting into bed with the mob and doing all of these things. And as part of our encouragement to all of you, who our ultimate goal for doing the podcast, our ultimate goal for spending all this time putting it all together, is that somehow, through the connection between the world of sports and faith, that it would somehow draw you closer to Christ in your walk with Christ. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Paul and I enjoy each other's company. We don't see each other much anymore, so we enjoy the fellowship part of it as well. But the long-term ramifications of what we're doing here, that's what it's for. And so if you have spent, part of this program kind of yelling at your phone as you're listening, or your computer as you're watching, you guys are just coming down on anybody who likes to have fun, and you're coming down on gamblers, and it's all legal. You've missed the point. Okay. And I hope here at minute 53 or whatever, we can dial you back into the point. The point is, you're right. It's legal. And there are a lot of things in this world that are perfectly legal that are not beneficial. You can do an awful lot of things that nobody's going to arrest you for and still wish you hadn't done them at the end of the day. This verse in 1 Corinthians 10:23, the first time I learned it, it was in a different version, and it was, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. Not all things take me in the right direction. And so my encouragement here in the 3-minute message is pretty simple. Please don't merely allow the laws of the land to dictate what you do in your life. Put them through the filter of Scripture and ask the question, is what I'm about to do drawing me closer to the Lord or further away from the Lord? Is it honoring that He's blessed me with, or is it putting that at risk for some other reason than investment in the kingdom, than investment in my family? And as Paul mentioned several minutes ago, if you are desperately seeking some sort of thrill or fulfillment for a hole somewhere in your soul, please know you're not going to find it at the poker table. You're not going to find it at the slot machine. You're not going to find it at the blackjack table. You're not going to find it at an X-ray vision table with rose-colored contact lens people looking around connected to the Gambino. Those people who did those things already have hundreds of millions of dollars, and they wanted a little bit more. And my friends, there's more to it. There's more out there than just seeking after the next win. And it may even be legal things that are taking you in the wrong direction, because a lot of things that are legal are not beneficial. Appreciate you all joining us for this is like the second week in a row, Paul, of legalese issues on this podcast. At some point we'll get back to the other stuff, but it's what's dominating the sports world these days. So thank you all for joining us. Please connect with us on churchpewsports.com, where every episode we've ever done is available for you to listen. We would love it if you would share the link to the podcast with other people in your world. And next week, we've got some more voices that we'll bring on, including, if I understand right, a carefully crafted personal eulogy for the Mariners and some other things.
Yeah, I got a buddy from Seattle who needs to purge his...
You got to get it out.
Needs to get through his grieving process, and I told him he could come on and read his eulogy.
We'll do it next time.
It'll be fun.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next time on Church Pew Sports.